Welcome back to the vault, where the most precious and powerful stories are kept safe for the future of humanity. We unlock the secrets of the heart and the mind through stunning visuals and moving narratives. Click subscribe now and gain access to the treasures of the soul.
You're going to deed half this house back to your sister before the inspection on Friday. That's how my father opened. Not hello. Not. It's been a long time. He said it the way a man tells a waitress his coffee is cold, like the inconvenience was mine to fix. He was sitting at my kitchen island, the one I'd installed myself the previous spring after watching 46 minutes of a YouTube video 3 times. The walnut had cost more than I'd budgeted for, and I had not regretted a single dollar of it. He had a coffee mug in his hand. My coffee mug, the blue one with the chipped handle that I'd had since the studio apartment on Elm. He'd helped himself. My stepmother was on the stool beside him, going through her purse with the slow theater of a woman who wants you to know she's not in a hurry. My older sister was standing by the window with her arms folded, looking out at the back garden like she was appraising it. Comp values. She was a real estate agent. Of course she was appraising it. My contractor friend, the one who'd been helping me prep the basement for the city inspection, had let them in. He didn't know. He'd seen a man in a sport coat at the front door at 8 in the morning saying he was my dad, and he had no reason to question it. He'd handed them coffee and gone back outside to finish caulking the laundry hookup. I don't blame him. I don't think I will ever blame him. I had not spoken to any of them in 3.5 years. I came in from the side door with grocery bags hooked over my wrists and stopped 2 steps inside the kitchen. The bags were heavy. I remember that. I remember the weight of a gallon of milk pulling at the plastic. "Hi, sweetheart," my father said and smiled. I set the bags on the counter. I did not say hi. I looked at my sister first because she was the one who had texted me 11 days ago after 38 months of silence, a message I had not answered, a message that said only we need to talk about Grandma's house. "Get out of my kitchen," I said. My stepmother sighed. The sigh was practiced. It had a shape to it, like a folded napkin. "We came all this way." "You came from Bellingham. It's an hour and 20 minutes. Don't be difficult, honey." That was my father again. He set the mug down on the walnut without a coaster. I watched a ring of moisture spread under the base of it, and I did not move to wipe it. "We need to have a conversation, and your sister thought it'd be better if we just sat down like adults." My sister thought. I looked at her. She did not turn from the window. "My sister hasn't been in this house. She doesn't know where the bathroom is. Which one of you told her where I lived?" There was a pause. The pause told me everything. "Mom did," my sister said, finally, still not turning. "Before she died, she had your address. My grandmother had died 14 months ago. I had not gone to the funeral. I had sent flowers and a card and a check to the hospice, and I had not gone, and that decision had cost me something I have not yet finished paying for, and I do not need a single one of these people in my house to remind me of it." "What about Grandma's house?" I said. My father reached into the inside pocket of his sport coat and produced a folded set of papers. He laid them on my counter. "Your grandmother left the property to you in the will, which we did not contest, even though it should have been split. We have been more than fair about that. But your sister is in a position right now where she needs equity, and the easiest, cleanest way to handle this is for you to sign a quitclaim deeding 50% of the property to her before the buyer's inspection on Friday. There's a buyer. Your sister has a buyer. Full ask, cash, on a property that I own." He smiled at me the way he used to smile when I was 9 and had brought home a B+. He was going to explain to me was actually a B. "Sweetheart, it's a formality. The sale closes, you split the proceeds with her, and we put this family back together. Your grandmother would have wanted that. I want to say something here, before I go further, because if I don't, the rest of this will not make sense. My grandmother raised me from the time I was 11. My mother had died of an aneurysm in a Trader Joe's parking lot on a Saturday morning, and my father had decided within 6 months that he was not equipped for 2 daughters, and my grandmother had taken me. She did not take my sister. My sister was 16 and had a boyfriend with a car, and my father kept her, and the arrangement was understood by everyone in the family to be permanent and to be fine. My grandmother had a small craftsman bungalow on a quiet street in Tacoma. She taught me to cook in that kitchen. She paid for my associate's degree out of a savings account she did not tell me about until the tuition bill came due. When I dropped out of the 4-year, she did not say a single disappointed word. When I told her at 23 that I wanted to learn to flip houses, she co-signed on a HELOC against her own home so I could buy my first one, and she did not tell my father, and she did not tell my sister, and she made me promise I would not either. I paid her back in 18 months. She framed the final check and hung it in her hallway. My father had not spoken to her in 9 years by the time she died. He had not spoken to me in 3.5. The reason was complicated and not complicated. The short version is that I had refused, at 26, to co-sign on a business loan for him, and he had told me at a Thanksgiving dinner in front of 11 people that I was selfish and that my mother would have been ashamed of me. And I had stood up from the table and put my jacket on and driven the 2 hours back to Tacoma, and I had not gone back. He did not know that I knew about the other thing. The thing my grandmother had told me 6 weeks before she died, sitting up in the hospital bed with the oxygen tubing taped to her cheek when she made me promise to listen and not interrupt. He had taken $22,000 out of my mother's life insurance settlement when I was 12. The settlement was supposed to be held in trust, split between me and my sister, payable at 21. My share had been roughly $70,000. When I turned 21, the trust officer had handed me a check for 48, and I had thought nothing of it because I did not know what the original number was supposed to be, and my father had been the executor, and my father had been the one who told me the number, and I had believed him. My grandmother had been the one who paid the trust officer to keep his quarterly statements. She had a folder. She gave me the folder 6 weeks before she died, and she told me she did not want me to do anything with it. She wanted me to know. She said, knowing is not the same as using. Knowing is a thing you can hold without doing anything with it. But if you ever need it, sweetheart, it is yours. I had not done anything with it. I had put it in a fireproof safe in the floor of my closet, and I had not opened it again. Now my father was standing in my kitchen telling me to sign over half of my grandmother's house to my sister before Friday. I need to think about it, I said. My stepmother brightened. Of course you do, honey. It's a lot. Give me until tomorrow morning. The inspection is Friday, my father said. We need the quitclaim filed Thursday at the latest, and it has to be notarized. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I'll meet you at the Tacoma house. We can talk there. My sister turned from the window for the first time. She looked thinner than I remembered. Her eyes had the flat quality of a person who has been managing too many lies for too long and has lost track of which ones she is currently telling. You're really going to make us wait? I'm really going to think about it. Fine, my father said, in the voice of a man granting a favor. He stood. He left the mug on the walnut without picking it up. Tomorrow, 9. Don't make us chase you. I did not say anything. I watched them file out through my own front door, and I watched my contractor friend in the driveway lift a hand to wave at them in confused politeness. And I waited until the rental SUV had pulled away from the curb before I went into my office and closed the door and sat down on the floor. I called Naya. Naya was my real estate attorney. She had been my real estate attorney since the second flip, when I had almost lost $40,000 on an undisclosed easement because I had not known to look for one. She was 61 years old, and she did not suffer fools, and she had once told me, over a glass of Pinot Noir at a closing dinner, that I reminded her of her younger self in a way that she considered a compliment and a warning. She picked up on the second ring. They came? I said. Who came? My father, my stepmother, my sister. They want me to sign over half of the Tacoma house. There's a buyer, cash. Friday. The line was quiet for a beat. Is the property still in your name only? Yes. Was probate cleared? 12 months ago. Clean. Did you sign anything? No. Did they leave paperwork? On my counter. Don't touch it. I'm coming over. Where are you? Home. Puyallup. 40 minutes. She hung up. I sat on the floor of my office for a long time. I could hear my contractor friend in the basement, the soft thunk of his caulk gun, the quiet country station he played on a battery radio. I could hear a crow on the fence outside the window. I could hear my own breathing. I did not cry. I want to be honest about that, because there is a version of this story where the woman in the office cries, and that is not the version I lived. What I felt was older than crying. It was the cold, clean feeling of a thing finally arriving that you had been waiting for since you were 12 years old. Naya arrived in 34 minutes. She came in through the side door because I had texted her to. She was carrying a leather satchel and a thermos of coffee that I knew from experience was actually bourbon-laced espresso and which she would not offer me any of because I was working. We sat at the kitchen island. She read the quitclaim paperwork in silence for 11 minutes. She made small marks in the margin with a fountain pen. When she was done, she set the pen down and looked at me. "This is fraud," she said. "Which part?" "The signature line for the second grantor. Your sister has already pre-signed it as if she were a current co-owner. She is not a current co-owner. She has signed a document representing herself as one, which means when this is filed, the county clerk has been presented with a falsified instrument. That's a crime. It is a felony in this state. It is also, separately, attempted theft of real property by deception, which has its own statute. Your father witnessed her signature. His notary stamp is on the back. My father is a notary. Your father was a notary 9 years ago. I just checked while you were making me tea. His commission lapsed in 2019. The stamp on this document is dated last Tuesday. He has notarized a fraudulent instrument using a lapsed seal. I sat with that for a moment. The room was very quiet. Outside the window, my contractor friend had moved on to the trim around the basement window well, and I could see the top of his cap from the kitchen. "What do you want to do?" Naya said. I told her about the folder. She did not interrupt. When I was finished, she was quiet for a long time, looking at her thermos. "Your grandmother," she said finally, "was a careful woman." She was. "Is the folder here or in storage?" "Here. Go get it." I went and got it. I pulled the safe out of the closet floor, and I worked the combination and I lifted out the manila folder. It was thicker than I remembered. There was a post-it note on the front, in my grandmother's handwriting that said, "For when, sweetheart." I had not opened it before. I opened it now, on the kitchen island with Naya next to me. The trust officer had been a man named Harlan Buddha at a small bank in Spokane that had since been bought twice. He had kept careful quarterly statements. He had also kept, in the back of the folder, a series of letters my father had written to him on what looked like personal stationery, requesting partial disbursements from the trust between 2008 and 2011, citing emergency family expenses for his minor daughter. The signatures on the requests were, supposedly, my grandmother's because she had been listed as a co-trustee. The signatures on the requests were not my grandmother's. I knew her handwriting. I had 17 years of birthday cards from her in a shoebox under my bed. Naya looked at the signatures for a long time. She took out her phone and photographed every page of the folder, twice. "This is $22,000, she said. It was 22, with interest, in this state. In fraud cases involving a fiduciary, the recovery includes statutory interest at 12% and treble damages. The look back is from the date of discovery, not the date of the original act, because of the fiduciary relationship." "What does that come to?" She was already typing on her phone. "Just under 180,000. I did not say anything. "Here's what I want to know," Naya said, putting the phone down. "What do you want?" I had been thinking about this since the moment my father had taken his coffee mug off my counter. I had been thinking about it in some quieter way for 14 months. "I don't want money," I said. "I have money. I want it on record. I want it filed somewhere. A court can see it. I want my sister to understand what she signed her name to today. I want my father to know that I know, and I want them out of my life in a way that they cannot come back from." Naya nodded once. She had a particular nod that I had only seen her give twice before. It was the nod of a woman who had been a litigator for 31 years, recognizing a thing that she wanted to do. "Tomorrow at 9, she said. "Tacoma. Your grandmother's house." "Yes." "I'll be there at 8:30. Don't bring anything. I'll bring everything." She left. I stayed at the island for a while. I picked up the coffee mug my father had left on the walnut. The ring of moisture under it had dried into a faint stain that I knew, from experience with this particular finish, would lift with a little olive oil and a soft cloth. I rubbed it out with my thumb. I washed the mug. I put it back on the shelf with the others. That night I slept the kind of sleep a person sleeps when a thing they have been bracing against for a long time has finally announced itself. Not well, but not poorly either. I drove to Tacoma at 8 the next morning. The bungalow was on a street with old maples that had started to turn. The for sale sign in the yard was a sign I had never seen before. It had my sister's brokerage on it. Her face was on it. Her face was on it. Her face had been smiling at strangers on my grandmother's lawn for some unknown number of days. Naya was in her car at the curb. She had a different satchel today and a second thermos. She got out when she saw me. "You're calm," she said. "Uncalm." "Good. Stay calm." Whatever I do in there, follow my lead. I am going to ask you for documents and you are going to hand me the manila folder when I ask. I am going to address your father by his first name. You don't need to do anything except be present and breathe. Okay. One more thing. I called a friend at the county recorder's office this morning. The quitclaim has not been filed. There is no pending instrument. We are ahead of them. Good. We went up the porch steps. I unlocked the door with the key I had carried on my ring for 14 months and had not used since the week after the funeral, when I had come to collect my grandmother's things and had taken only the shoebox of birthday cards and the framed final check from her hallway. The house smelled the way it had always smelled: cedar, old paper, the ghost of a particular brand of lemon polish she had used on the dining table. They arrived at 8:57. My father came in first. He stopped when he saw Naya. Who is this? This is my attorney, I said. His face did something I had not seen before, a small recalibration. There's no need for that. There is, Naya said, very pleasantly. Every need for that. I have introductions to make and questions to ask, and I'd like everyone to sit at the dining table, please. They sat. My stepmother first, then my sister, then my father, who took the head of the table by reflex. Naya took the seat across from him, which had been my grandmother's seat. I took the chair to Naya's right. I'd like to start, Naya said, with the document you brought to my client's home yesterday morning. She laid it on the table. She turned it so the signature page was facing my father. Your daughter has signed this document representing herself as a co-owner of the subject property. She is not a co-owner of the subject property. The property is held solely in my client's name, having passed through probate 12 months ago. Are you aware of that? My father started to speak. Naya kept going. You then notarized her signature. The seal on this document is dated last Tuesday. Your notary commission, sir, lapsed on March 14, 2019. Notarizing a real estate instrument under a lapsed commission is, in this state, a Class C felony. Notarizing a falsified signature is a separate Class C felony. Filing this instrument with the county would be a third. Were you intending to file it? My father's mouth was open. He closed it. My sister said, "What?" Naya turned to her. You signed a document representing yourself as a current owner of a property you do not own. Whether you knew that was a misrepresentation at the time of signing is a factual question. Your father's involvement, given his role as the notary, is less ambiguous. I told her I was a co-owner, my father said quickly. That was my understanding. Your understanding, Naya said, is on the record in 3 letters you wrote to a trust officer named Harlan Booty in 2009, 2010, and 2011, in which you describe yourself as the sole adult fiduciary for both of your daughters and request disbursements totaling $22,000 from a trust on which you were not, in fact, the sole fiduciary. The signatures on the request forms are not your mother's signatures. I have a handwriting comparison from the 1987 deed she signed when she purchased this house. I had it done last night. The room went very still. My sister looked at my father. What is she talking about? My father did not answer. It was Mom's life insurance, I said. The first time I had spoken since we sat down. There was a trust. He took $22,000 out of it. He forged Grandma's signature to do it. I got $48,000 when I turned 21. I was supposed to get 70. My sister looked at me, then at our father, then at the table. You said she had bad investments, my sister said, to him. You said the trust officer mismanaged it. That's not a conversation for right now, my father said. You said. She stopped. She was not looking at any of us. She was looking at a water stain on the dining table I had never noticed before. You told me the same thing about mine. I had not known that. I want to be clear about that. I had not known that until that moment, sitting at my grandmother's dining table, watching my sister's face go through a series of small, private reorganizations. Naya watched her for a moment. Then she turned back to my father. Here is what is going to happen, she said. You are going to withdraw the listing on this property. Your daughter is going to surrender her license to act as agent on this transaction within 24 hours, and she is going to refer the existing buyer, if there is one, to another agent at her brokerage, with no commission to herself. You are going to return any earnest money already deposited. You are going to sign a settlement agreement which I have drafted, which acknowledges the existence of the trust disbursements and releases all current and future claims against my client related to the property at this address, the property at her current address, and any other real or personal asset she now holds or may hold. In exchange, my client will not refer the falsified quitclaim, the lapsed notary stamp, the forged trust requests, or the handwriting analysis to the King County prosecutor, the Pierce County prosecutor, the Department of Licensing, or the State Bar's Notary Commission Division. My father said, "This is extortion. This is a settlement," Naya said. "Extortion would require a threat of harm in exchange for a benefit to me or my client. I am offering you, on behalf of my client, a release in exchange for restitution and withdrawal from a transaction you have no legal right to be part of. My client is not seeking the $22,000. She is not seeking the statutory interest. She is not seeking the treble damages, which would, by the way, put your total exposure at roughly $180,000 before we even talk about the felony charges. She is asking you to walk away from her grandmother's house and from her life. That is all." My stepmother was crying. Quietly. I had not seen her cry before. My father said, "I want to talk to my daughter alone." "No," Naya said. "I have a right. You have no right that supersedes her counsel's instruction. She is not interested in speaking with you privately. If you have something to say, you may say it now in the presence of all parties on the record." She tacked a small device on the table next to her satchel that I had not noticed her place there. "Yes, this is recording. Yes, it is legal. This is a one-party consent state, and I am the party. Proceed if you wish." My father did not proceed. My sister said, "I'll sign it." We all looked at her. "Whatever it is, I'll sign it." She was crying too now, but in a different way than my stepmother. The kind of crying that is not for show and not for sympathy and not really for anyone in the room. I didn't know about the trust. I knew the house thing was, I knew it was bad. I told myself it was a family arrangement. I told myself you'd be okay with it because you have money and we don't. I told myself a lot of things. She looked at me. "I'm sorry." I did not know what to do with that. I want to be honest about it. I had spent a long time thinking about what I would say to her if she ever apologized, and I had a folder of sentences in my head, and at the moment she said it, I could not find any of them. "I'm not ready to talk to you about this," I said. "I might be someday. I might not be. I don't know." "Okay. Sign the agreement. We can figure out the rest later or not at all." "Okay." Naya slid the settlement across to my sister first. She read it. She read it again. She signed it. Then she slid it to my father. My father did not pick up the pen. "I want to think about it," he said. "You have until 6 p.m. today," Naya said. "After 6, the offer is withdrawn. The documentation goes to 3 prosecutorial offices and the state bar, and your daughter will pursue full statutory recovery in civil court. 6 p.m. You may have my card. You may call me. You may not call my client." She slid him her card. She stood. She gathered her satchel. She gathered the recording device. She gathered, with a small gesture I did not understand at the time but came to understand later, the manila folder, which she had not actually shown them because she had not needed to. We walked out of the house together. We stood on the porch for a moment. The maples on the street were doing the thing maples do in October. A car went by very slowly. "Lock it," Naya said. I locked the door of my grandmother's house. I put the key back on my ring. My father called Naya at 5:46. He signed. The settlement was filed the following Monday. The listing came down on Tuesday. My sister surrendered the agency on the transaction on Wednesday, and her brokerage, which had not been informed of the actual ownership status, opened an internal review of her conduct that I did not follow but that I gathered, through one mutual acquaintance, resulted in her transferring to a smaller firm in a different county. I sold the bungalow myself 4 months later to a young couple expecting their first child. I priced it under market. I told them the story of the kitchen where my grandmother had taught me to make her cornbread, and I left them the recipe card in a kitchen drawer with a note that said "For when, sweethearts." My sister wrote me a letter at the end of that year. 8 pages. I read it twice. I did not respond. I have not, yet, decided whether I will. The letter is in the safe in my closet, in a folder of its own. My father has not contacted me. My stepmother sent a Christmas card the following December. It said "thinking of you" in her handwriting and nothing else. I did not throw it away. I do not know what that means, and I am trying to stop needing to know what things mean before I am ready. The walnut counter in my kitchen has aged exactly the way I wanted it to. The faint ring my father left on it has long since lifted. I oil the counter every 6 weeks. It is a small ritual and it suits me. I do it on Sunday mornings with the radio on, and I think about my grandmother, and I think about the woman I am becoming, and on the best Sundays I think about neither of them and only about the wood and the cloth and the slow, steady work of taking care of a thing I built. I am 31 years old. I own 4 properties. I sleep through the night. I am, as my mother might have said if she had lived long enough to know me as an adult, just fine. I am better than fine. I am free. I have thought a lot, in the years since that morning, about the difference between a person who holds a thing and a person who uses it. My grandmother handed me that folder 6 weeks before she died, and she told me, "Knowing is not the same as using." I did not understand what she meant at the time. I think I do now. She was teaching me, in the only way she knew how, that strength is not the same as cruelty. That a woman can carry the truth about the people who hurt her for 14 months or for 14 years and not become smaller for carrying it. The folder was not a weapon. It was a record. The difference matters. My father turned a record of love, a trust set up by my mother before she died, into a withdrawal he made in secret using a forged signature. He turned an inheritance into a theft. And then, 3 decades later, he walked into my kitchen and tried to do the same thing to my grandmother's house, because once a person learns that a thing can be taken, they tend to keep taking until somebody stops them. I stopped him. I want to be careful about how I say that. I did not stop him out of anger. Anger would have ended that morning with my father in handcuffs and my sister in a holding cell. And I could have done that, and Naya would have helped me. And a part of me wishes I had. But anger is a small fuel. It burns hot, and then it burns out, and what is left of you when the fire goes down is often less than what you started with. What I used instead was patience. I had been building it for 3.5 years without knowing I was building it. Every Sunday I oiled my counter. Every closing I read the contract twice. Every quarter I paid down the mortgage on a small bungalow in Tacoma that nobody in my family knew I had inherited until they wanted a piece of it. If there is a thing I want to give you, listening to this, it is this. The people who took from you when you were small are not going to give it back. They are not going to apologize the way you have rehearsed in your head. They are not going to become the parents or the siblings you needed at 11, at 16, at 21. What you can do, what is actually within your hands, is build a life so steady, so well kept, so thoroughly your own that when they come back, and they will come back, you can meet them at the door without flinching. You can let your lawyer do the talking. You can lock the door behind them. You can go home and oil the wood you bought with money you earned and sleep through the night. My grandmother's last gift to me was not the house. It was not the folder. It was the sentence she said in the hospital bed, with the oxygen tubing taped to her cheek. Knowing is not the same as using. Hold what you know. Use it only when somebody else makes you. Then put it down again and go back to your own life. I am free now. Not because I won. Because I am no longer the one carrying what was never mine to carry.